I'm King Ross, your my lol subjects, and welcome to WhatCulture Extra and September's offering of classic WTF moments. This month I won't be taking a look at a full pay-per-view. I will of course be taking a look at one singular match, and there's not a better match to pick than Mankind vs Undertaker, King of the Ring 1998, Hell in a Bastard Cell. We have the fact that the Undertaker wrestled this match with a broken bastard foot. How did he do? Now when you consider what Mick Foley went through during this match, we as people who have never even taken as much as one singular bump in a professional wrestling ring are fully justified and fully within our right to call the Undertaker a wuss. So it's a good job he didn't moan, because if he did, I wouldn't do this. So in a match where the sole concept is to lock two men inside of a cage so they have to get it on, Mick Foley heads straight to the top of the cage and nobody tries to stop him. He's not in the bastard cage, he could go anywhere in the arena, completely nullifying the effect of the Hell in a Cell. It's as useful as a cock-flavoured lollipop, as one film back in the day used to say, but I can't remember. Or so we thought. Next up we have Jim Ross, who claims there's nothing but imagination between the Undertaker and the floor of the arena. Is that right, Jim Ross? What about nitrogen and argon and carbon dioxide and oxygen and smart tears and smart sweat and smart dribble? Next up we have JR on the moment. He claims that Mankind's chair shots make his blood curl. Fair f***s. Jerry Lawler, however, claims that Mankind's chair shots put goosebumps on his back, make the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He likes it. Well then. Fake King Lawler likes grievous bodily harm. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? Let's move the on. Next up, we have an example of WWE just being like WhatCulture, in the sense that nobody talks to anybody. It's clear for me to see that the people constructing the cell clearly weren't told that the cell would be contested on top of it, because what they used to keep the panels in place was cable ties. Yes, the things that you marks have on the back of your PS4, keeping your wires all nice and fancy. I've watched this match a load of times, and it's clear to see them falling from the top of the cell. You've got the big white ones and the little black ones, all trusted with keeping over 600 pounds of weight, which was bouncing off the cell when they were doing moves and walking around and whatnot, from falling to their death. It just doesn't add up, does it? Maybe matches should be planned ahead and then corresponded with the people building the cell. Then accidents like Foley falling through the bastard cell wouldn't happen. Michael James Foley off the top, insane bloody hitting the membrane. I don't know what I can say here which hasn't already been said, but the WTF moment here is the fact that the moment was planned. It was from 16 feet in the air, which is like geet high, yet it was still planned that Michael James Foley would be thrown off, spin in the air, and land on his back without looking where he was bastard going. That's the most impressive thing about all of this. He was falling essentially with his eyes closed from 16 feet in the air. Amazeballs. Just imagine the conversation before the match. Well, Mick, you're going to be thrown off the cell. Lovely, boss. Thank you very much. Mankind, Undertaker, Vince McMahon, their morality, their moral compass, whatever you want to call it, they all need checked to all of that, plus the fact that Spanish commentator Hugo Savinovich, that might be right, I don't know, he was almost squashed by a flying Foley. WTF all round. Next up we have the moment where JR had to announce to the audience, sorry folks, we apologise, this match has stopped dead in its tracks. Don't worry Jim, we can see fine well why it has been, you wonderful commentator. The only televised phrase that is said more than by Booker T on WWE Raw is the moment where Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross repeatedly said they are raising the cage and the Undertaker's on top. Dramatic effect? I don't think so. As we all know, the commentators are wired up with a headset to the people behind the curtain, so this was clearly them telling the people behind the curtain that Taker was still on top of the cage even though it was being raised. Good on the pair for keeping a modicum of kayfabe alive, of course, because if they didn't say what they said, presumably, the cage would have kept on going, Undertaker was on top, and he would have been shoved up the ceiling like some Play-Doh through a bastard cheese grater. Next up, we have Terry Funk heard uttering the phrase, get that shit out of the way, man, while the EMTs are trying to get to Foley. Talk about getting the F out, WWE. More like, in this instance, because it was caught on camera, you need to get the S out. Back with Terry Funk once again, only this time he's telling Mick Foley, Cactus, you need to get on the stretcher, man. What's he talking about, Terry? Can't you see? It's clearly Mankind, not Cactus Jack, you silly goose. It's totally different. Guilt Trip City, bitch. This ballsy ginger gets right up inside Vince McMahon's grill, and says, "You've got ratings now, the bowels, the ginger bowels on that fella." Although, according to this script I've got written down here, it's very clear to see why that ginger man had no problem telling Vince McMahon where to go. Because as we all know, no one saw Vince McMahon going on to become best pals with the most powerful man on earth, and nobody back in 1998 saw Vince McMahon literally defeat God inside a wrestling ring. Bet he regretted it. Next up, we have the chance of Undertaker. Mick Foley is quite literally lying in the center of the ring, dead for all we know, yet the marks are chanting for the Undertaker. Surely, after taking one hell of a hellacious bump, Mick Foley should be the words coming out of the lips of all the marks, the bloodthirsty bastards. Now then, this paints one of two pictures for the marks in attendance. Either it paints a horrible picture with them being bloodthirsty bastards, or it just pays testament to the heat Michael Foley had back then. Where were they?
Pittsburgh.
Oh my God, Pittsburgh is the first one. Foley gets off the stretcher, and because this is WhatCulture Extra, it's not WTF, it's what the f***. Dislocated shoulder for sure, and whatever else is going on inside of his body. He was well and truly a mess back then, wasn't he? But he gets off the stretcher. Not only that, he climbs up the cell with one good arm. As we all know, Mark Henry is billed as the world's strongest man. But after that, with Mick Foley hulking up nearly 300 pounds of weight with one arm, he has to take that moniker from Mark. Surely, for Christ's sake. The second fall, not a pinfall, fall from the gods. Cable ties back in it again. Just go and look at that picture. You can see them on the map right next to Mick. The people who put that cage together either need an apology because they're being paid as very bad builders here, or they need sectioned for negligence and all sorts of bad workmanship. Somebody should have just told them that Mick and Taker, £600 were going up there for starters. Believe it or not, this was the worst of the two falls because Mick falling through the cell unexpectedly onto the hard ring mat is supposedly a lot harder than planning to fall off a 16-foot ice steel cage through a table and onto a concrete floor. Floor. Hard to get your mind round, I know. It's a wonder that the sudden thud Mick had to endure didn't see him off, let alone the steel chair that came down immediately after him and cracked him upside the head. That chair knocked several of Mick's teeth out and pierced his bastard lip, but I've done some research. Mick said if he took a flat back bump properly through the cage for that second fall, he would have been brown bread. That's dead. So it's f***ing fantastic that he twisted slightly and shattered his bastard hip. Lovely. The real WTF moment here, of course, is Taker's ability to remain completely emotionless and in the kayfabe, despite the fact that his colleague, and presumably good pal, is on the floor, dead. No, maybe, he didn't know, at the hands of his little... I don't know whether Taker should be commended for this kayfabe or have his internet history searched and his pool searched for a dead body. Why have I written that down? Next up, we have Terry Funk Shoewitz decided to go walkabout during the chokeslam from The Undertaker. Lollapalooza. Credit to Terry, of course, for thinking on his feet and providing a distraction so Mick could get some treatment from the MTs. But of course, with Terry's shoe being thrown off, he ended up being as soulless as The Undertaker. Because the Mick Foley back up a second time while the show must go on. Fine. I don't give a damn that Mick Foley dropped those notoriously heavy steel steps after a couple of seconds and lifted them up. He had one sort of good arm and one arm literally dangling off. It's a miracle he got it up for that long. Oh, got it up. What am I talking about? Mick Foley's willy. I hope he put a sock on it. Where's this going? And then we have Taker with the steel steps knocking Mick Foley's dangling off shoulder. I have a theory, by the way. I reckon that the pair were working in cahoots in Crash Bandicoot to get that shoulder popped back into place while continuing the momentum of the match, if you get what I mean. Bang, and knock it in, you know? I tell you what, this is the most impressive piece of ingenuity I've seen since I saw this. Undertaker using the cell wall, the referee's crying, knock it off. Why weren't you saying that before, referee, who I can't remember who you were because I watched this over a month ago? Despite seeing Undertaker almost kill Mankind twice in the match, this referee decides that using the cell wall is completely outside of the rules of the match and dashes over to put an end to it. Oh, you f***ing idiot. Astonishingly, however, Mick Foley agrees and obediently rolls back into the ring. Bless his cotton socks, but he didn't know where the Scooby-Doo he was. Thumbtacks. Hell, you know what? Seeing a man almost die twice didn't take this match enough in the extreme for me. So As we all know, The Undertaker would become famous for a theme that told him to keep rolling, but Mick Foley seemingly didn't realise that that instruction did not apply to him in this match. As you can see here, Mick Foley does not land in the tags. He lands sort of in them, but not really, but he decides to roll through them because he hasn't taken enough punishment in the match already. Oh my god. Tell it to goozle me, Mick Foley shouts with the camera in range of his voice to pick it up. I feel bad criticising him for that because he's knackered, isn't he? Just like this video. So we go to after the match now, and when Mick Foley walked backstage, Vince McMahon, and rightfully so, thanked him for doing what he did and made Mick promise him that he would never do it in his company again. Until No Way Out 2000, of course. I know the No Way Out 2001 was a little bit doctored and whatnot, and a little bit kayfabe, but still, the margin for error, tres minimal. French. First of all, yes, children, I bet you won't be able to Adam and Eve this. This match was not the main event of King of the Ring 98. The following match, which pitted Stone Cold up against Kane, was interfered by two superstars, Undertaker, and you fucking guessed it, I wish I wasn't saying this, but Mankind as well. Yes, instead of just letting Mick go backstage for a nice little bubble bath and whatnot, Vince McMahon carted him back out there again to take a Stone Cold Stunner as if he hadn't taken enough already. Vince. And we just end this video by going through Mick Foley's list of injuries. Here we go. Dislocated shoulder, damaged kidneys, hole in the bottom of the lip, knocked out teeth, one in the nose, dislocated jaw, and everything else, including a f***ed up memory due to a couple of massive concussions. How do we know this? Well, while they were backstage getting checked out, Mick Foley asked Taker, did I use the thumbtacks? Taker replied to Mick's question, Mick, look at your arm, and wouldn't you just know it, Mick looked at his arm, he had a thumbtack in there and plucked it out. That's it.